Big crowd. You in the back. You in the back.
Coach, when you went back and watched the film, obviously they kind of hit you on a few big plays, but for the most part, the defense held up pretty well. What did you feel like you all were able to get accomplished, and then how do you tighten up some of those things over the next big plays? Because you hadn't been big play a whole lot this year.
Yeah, I think the first thing you noticed obviously was the big plays. They came out, hit us on a couple plays, and quite frankly, when you're playing a good team, a team that's as talented as the team we face, you know it's going to be some give and some take. We thought we were in pretty good position. Guys made plays. So obviously, you look at the technique, the fundamentals, you look at the call, you evaluate everything to make sure you're putting them in the best possible situation to be successful. Obviously, some things we want to do better. The kids owned it, coaches owned it. But overall, we thought we gave ourselves a chance, once we settled down, but you can't start that slow, and that has not been our calling card.
Looking ahead to Missouri, what are some of the things that you've seen from them on tape?
Yeah, they got good skill, good young skill. I think the quarterback, has done a really good job. I think he's underrated. I think he's more athletic than what a lot of people give him credit for. He's made some plays. They obviously played Georgia extremely well, was winning in the fourth quarter. So we know those guys are going to come in here ready to play. And, at the end of the day, we just got to make sure that we're ready to play. And, we're worried about Tennessee and, making sure they get our best version.
Coach, in every game you try to get those teaching moments that you can pass along to your kids. What were some of those moments, teaching moments that you can pass along from the Georgia game?
Yeah, I think what we said earlier, you just, when you're on the road, you're playing a talented team, you want to start off fast. You want to make sure that, the communication is, where it needs to be, alignments, all the small details that always come back and bite you, if you don't adhere to them. So I think our kids understand that. We got some resilient kids. We have a mature bunch. We looked at those things, we looked at the alignments, the assignments, the communication part, we addressed it, and now we're moving on.
Coach, the secondary back-to-back weeks with that same lineup, are you pretty settled and comfortable there? I know you like to rotate, when you can back there, but do you feel like Turnage and Slaughter are where you're best at right now at corner, and how settled do you feel like you finally are back there? Is that what you're healthy?
Yeah, we're kind of still working through it. I think those guys, and let me say it this way. I think we're always going to try to put the guys out there that's going to give us the best opportunity to be successful on Saturdays. And, those guys have been healthy, the last couple of weeks. And, they obviously have played well, the first week and obviously, to a degree this last week. So, getting Christian Charles back, getting him healthy, he'll factor in. But, yeah, we feel good about those two guys, but, nothing is ever settled. It's really a game by game, kind of deal back there, no different than what it is at all the positions. Number one, you got to be healthy, and then obviously you got to be playing at a high level, and we thought those guys did that, the last couple of weeks.
Jimmy and Rick.
Coach, what do you see out of Missouri's offense?
Yeah, just, like I said, I think they're very talented, at the receiver spot. Even though they're young, they got really good talent there. I think they have a quarterback, who's a lot more athletic than I think what people give him credit for. And then to me, you just look at the moxie that they showed, playing at the University of Georgia. I thought they did a great job, schematically. They put them in a lot of tough situations. And, we know those guys are going to come in here ready to play. Like I stated earlier, the key is making sure we're ready to play and, doing the best job we can of preparing this week to get ready for a tough Missouri team.
Coach, can you reflect on the seniors on your side of the ball and what they've meant to this program in these last couple of years to help turn things around?
Yeah, it's been great. I kind of made mention of that, after the game. Obviously for those guys, a lot of those guys, it'll be their last home game. And, those guys, they bought into what we were selling, from Coach Hype, down to myself. And, we'll be forever appreciative, the foundation that these guys have laid. I think they're going to be extremely proud, moving forward as they watch Tennessee grow and continue to, ascend, throughout the country and doing it through our play. And it's really because of the foundation that those guys have laid.
Coach, when you go against a mobile quarterback, what defines whether or not you try to play him straight up or you try to put a spy on him?
Yeah, that's always, that's a great question. I think you have to, just like anything, you have to do some things and kind of mix it up. I don't think you want to do anything the whole time, You know, these guys are too smart. You know, the coordinators are too smart. You know, so there'll be opportunities, obviously, that you want to spy and mirror them, but there are obviously going to be some opportunities where, you know, you got to push 5 or 6 guys to try to get him on the ground. I think the reality of it is you just got to do a great job of trying to mix up the fronts, mix up the coverages, you know, to try to keep him guessing, because if he knows exactly what he's seeing, you know, he's liable to pull the ball down and just take off running, and, you know, nobody wants to see that, let alone me.
Patrick.
Coach, Georgia had a couple big plays, fast plays early in the game in the first half. What happened on those plays, and how do you feel like your defense has done guarding the big plays this season?
Yeah, I think number one, I think we've been really good, you know, against the big plays for the most part. You know, when you consider, you know, we do a percentage every week, you know, in terms of how many plays we play, you know, versus how many big plays we play, and you know, we've graded out, you know, pretty high most of the season. But going back to the Georgia game, you know, to be quite honest with you, you know, they made some plays. You know, I felt like we were in a good spot, you know, coverage-wise. I think we're, you know, where we needed to be for the most part. You know, guy just made a great, you know, contested catch, you know, on both plays. And then the other big play that we gave up, you know, we weren't where we needed to be. So that was obviously frustrating. But we know we're playing talented teams, and just about every team in this conference that we're seeing week in and week out is going to be talented. You know, we just got to make more plays than we obviously give up.
And looking forward to Missouri, obviously, Burton is a receiver that they get the ball to in a lot of different ways. How important is he? Just slowing him down and knowing where he is?
Yeah, it's really important. Those guys are talented. Like I said, you know, I stated earlier, they're young, but they're extremely talented, you know, athletic. You know, they've played well in a lot of big moments for those guys, you know, in their young careers. So it's important to know where those guys are, you know, particularly the Burton kid. And, you know, he's fast enough to tear the top off the coverage, but he's also athletic enough, you know, when ball is in hand to be able to make guys miss. So he's a good young prospect.
Coach, there was, on the Georgia side, they talked after the game about not giving Tennessee's offense layups. If a guy's feet just grab and hold. Is that something that you guys have had conversations with your DBs about, that just take the 15 and play the next play if you're in a bad spot? Is that a mindset that's kind of growing in football?
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak for everybody, but from my perspective, you know, and I played defensive back. I know you probably can't tell, but, you know, back in the day. Obviously, you know, if you're beaten, you're going to give up a touchdown, yeah, you'd rather grab a guy and, you know, obviously, you know, let them call the flag and give us a chance to play again. But we probably talk a lot more about just having better technique, fundamentals, and making sure we're not in those situations. But, you know, at the end of the day, the name of the game is to keep them out of the end zone at all costs. And, you know, if you feel like you're going to give up a score, you best, you know, do what you need to do to give us a chance to snap the ball again.
How closely do you monitor the snaps of the defensive line versus the snaps of linebackers versus the snaps of defensive backs?
Yeah, we monitor all of them. You know, we want to make sure, you know, as I said, you know, I think the very first press conference we had, you know, we realized, you know, our offense, we have one of the best offenses in the country, and they're going to score a lot of points, and we're going to play a lot of plays, you know, and it was of the utmost important that, you know, we rotate these guys, you know, particularly up front. You know, those guys are the guys who typically get tired the quickest, you know, and then I would move on to the linebackers as well. We put a lot on those guys' plate, and, you know, we're going to make sure those guys are fresh coming down this back stretch of the fourth quarters. And, you know, we've really been able to, you know, not really by design, but because of so many injuries we've had on the back end, you know, we've really, you know, put ourselves in a position where, you know, a lot of guys have earned some trust, and we're able to rotate those guys a little bit more too, you know, based on the experiences they've gotten earlier in the season. So, yeah, you know, we want to rotate guys as much as possible to try to keep them fresh, and the more we can do it, I think it's great, obviously, for us to play fast at the end of games, but it also is great for the morale. So at the end of the day, they get what they earn. If guys are working hard, if guys are playing to the standard, and if they give themselves a chance to win in practice, we're going to give them a chance to play on play on Saturdays.
Last two questions, Wes and Patrick.
It looks like, I think the past couple of weeks, maybe the tackle numbers for Juwan Mitchell have gone up a little bit. Is the ball just flowing his way more, or is he sort of being more active and doing some more things?
Yeah, you know, I think Juwan's getting into a little bit of a rhythm. You know, I like to think he's starting to, you know, find his groove, so to speak. You know, he's healthy. You know, he's actually played pretty good, I think, the last couple of weeks. And I think, again, it's a combination of him being healthy. You know, the way teams have tried to attack us to a degree, you know, has put him in some situations where he needed to make some plays. And, you know, and he's come through for us so far. So I'm proud of the direction he's headed. You know, we feel like he has a chance to be a really good player in this program, you know, and I think these last couple of weeks are starting to show what he can really do.
Coach, you talked about the seam
Yeah, it's been great. It's been awesome. Just like all the seniors, as I mentioned earlier. You know, obviously, you know, Trey's a senior. He's played a lot of football for us. He's been a warrior. You know, he's been banged up, you know, to a degree, you know, but he hasn't missed a rep. You know, he's always there. He's always trying to get better. You know, and to be quite honest with you know, he's the type of kid that, you know, that you're looking for to represent your university. You know, he's a good kid. You know, he's a good student athlete. You know, and he's obviously a really good football player. So, you know, he's definitely going to be missed. You know, I feel like he's playing good football. You know, but more importantly, like I said, I like the kid. You know, I like what he brings to the table. You know, from a maturity perspective. So, he's definitely leaving his mark. You know, he's playing his best ball his senior year, and I couldn't be more happy for him.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thank you guys.